You people out of town, be advised about this tape tonight. I'm going to say a few words, and then, for the benefit of the new people here and in the other cities, it's time for those who have not been exposed to Kyroots. I was going to give them a fair-sized dose tonight so that I can start using, so that we can start letting Kyroot participate some more. So be advised, and the second half of the tape will be the Paradigm people. Is that correct? We got them ready to put on something else tonight? Huh? Where's Marcus? Somebody answer.
Yes.
All right. Since you've had a few days, I want to, as I oftentimes do, pick up one or two little things, but one primary thing from last time. I want everyone to fully realize what I was trying to point out, and I'm going to wrap it up into one simple term that I want to be sure that you did have occasion to consider, or that you will now, and that is the real revolutionist private agenda. His dance card is in no way linked to the actions of anyone else. That is the tricky part. It is not some form of ordinary stubbornness, and it's not on the form, really, the way you should initially look at it, it's not on the form of continually having to create new dance steps to take up for what other people do. It's on the basis, to take one example, let us say that a real revolutionist would not talk about other people, just gossip in general, just would not. Anything that even resembles gossip, he would not. So the point is, his particular agenda as to what he would and would not do is in no wise linked at all to what anyone's else's actions may be. Not that he has to talk to them, not that he would, even though I mentioned the example of one's mother, that you might one time say to her or someone else that, by the way, I am no longer going to listen to gossip. But other than that sort of thing that you might want to do with somebody that was that close, like in your family, other than that, what you decide to do, what the revolutionist would have as his private dance card, is not linked to anyone else's actions. It is not a holding pattern. It is not even a continual improvisation about how can I dance around the edges of this, how can I avoid this. To take that simple example, if indeed he would never gossip, that's it. That is it. And the actions, no matter where he is and what's going on, is no longer of any consequence. That is what ordinary consciousness is not wired up to deal with, because that is not the going reality in the 3D world. That is not the way things are done. That's the way things are dreamed of being done. That is why religions in part are popular. That is why stories of chivalry, ideas of fanatics in some religion that may even be foreign to you, or some philosophy, it's still almost a sweet dream that someone could have such an agenda. Someone could be so driven that they would just go fly into the face of 10,000 drawn knives, or worse yet, 20,000 bad opinions of one. And even though, as they would say in the movies, I guess, even though I don't approve of what they stand for, even though I don't like what they did, Jesus, it's like my little heart flutters to think that somebody would do that. Well, forget the 10,000 knives. Do something worthwhile. And it does not have to do with wrestling with somebody else. And it does not have anything to do with going ahead with the citywide wired-in behavior that all change, which will be a change in your agenda, is in some way absolutely determined by and tied to the behavior of others. That all change, but they've got to do their part. That is not change. That is not a private agenda. It is not linked at all with the behavior of anyone else. If it is, you're not doing anything. You're still a sucker. We're all suckers. We're all in line to be slaughtered. But you're still there with them, shuffling your feet, cursing the gods, not knowing which way change comes about. And one more thing before Kyroots. I continue to get people bringing up this kind of subject, and for a long time I never did speak much about it. But I did make some comments about it just shortly before you newer people here in Atlanta and some of you in other cities got here in the last 3 or 4 months. You just barely missed it, and now the questions are coming back up, so I'm going to mention it one more little time here. Having to do with possessions. There is a built-in dream schematic in many people, and many people end up in something like this, of almost a pleasant sensation of believing that maybe I should just take most of the stuff I own. All these books I've been collecting, all these weird books for the last 10 years, 20 years. I ought to take most of the stuff I got and just throw it away. Because sometimes I begin to think that I don't possess those books, they possess me. Or these clothes I got, and I carry them around every time I move, and I keep buying new clothes, and I don't wear the ones I have. Sometimes I believe that I am not in possession of clothes, that the closet's in possession of me. Any of you who are fairly well read should know that this is not a new idea. You did not think it up, and it has some validity. But the reason I never responded to it much in the past, because it now is in fairly common currency, and therefore I don't normally deal with things that are, at least the terms and the maps of them, in the way in which they're already out in common currency in the city. But I do want to point out to you that a real revolutionist should ask himself, just even a friend, a fictitious, reasonably insane person, which I guess would be a fripp, wouldn't it? Is what would they be doing owning anything that was not either useful or beautiful to them? So you would be within your rights to look around at what you've got, no matter what. Don't get into what seemed to have spurred you on to purchase it and acquire it in the first place. Forget all that. Here it is, you got it. You got it indoors to where it won't rust or get hit by lightning or stolen, and so it is your possession. And you paid for it in some way with time or effort or money. And can you look at it now and say, this is no longer useful, if it ever was to me. It is not useful. I do not use it. I've never used it, or if I have used it, I haven't used it in the last 10 years, and I can't foresee ever using it. Why do I have it? And if it's not useful, it should be attractive to you, really beautiful. Just attractive, my God. Why would you spend effort on attractive? That's all you want. If you're a woman, especially, you can end up and get a man. So it should be better than that. It should be beautiful. Whether it's a painting, whether it's just a piece of sculpture, whether it's a stained glass that you put in. But it should be something that you personally, that you don't need an audience, you don't need agreement, you don't need some critic to come tell you whether it's good or not, but it's something that you find beautiful. Now, you are within your rights, any of you who want to. Don't get all carried away and believe it's some kind of spiritual quest that you're on. Although I repeat it, there is some validity to the thing and the reality of all these monks and all these religious orders. Besides giving up sex, what's one of the other? Giving up sex and usually shutting up. What's one of the other great things they normally do? They give all their stuff away. Or if they're going to come join the monastery or the community, they tell them, all right, you can come in here, but you got to give up sex, and you can't talk, and you can't bring anything with you. Bring a pair of sandals, some overalls, and the rest of it, forget it. Give it away, or you're not going to bring it here. That has some appeal to people. And there's a little validity to it, but I don't discuss it a lot because it is so easy for people to dream that I should just abandon everything. It's one step from that to believing all possessions in some way are evil. Don't look at it as being evil. Look at it as dumb, stupid. Not the possessions, but any possessions you've got that you can look at and they're not either useful or beautiful, then what in the hell are you doing with them? Now, that's pretty nice. I didn't say why in the hell did you get them. See, everybody can get overheated and do... Now, you bought them before you met me. We'll leave it at that. But now you still got it. You move it around. You dust them. You even look at it and think, well, what I need is a newer model. And the point is, you hadn't used this model. You used it once to see if it would work. And now you worry about, well, what I need is to trade it in on a newer model. No. But a lot of you are beginning to ask questions along such lines. There is a way in which a real revolutionist should sort of get himself stripped down and find out that a lot of life's so-called goods he could do without. Not for some religious reason, not because the gods or life itself is going to say, "Ah, it was a test and I'm proud of you. All you got now is a bathing suit and a pair of flip-flops and a bus ticket. That's all you got." But I'll repeat at least for the third time for tonight. There is a certain validity. Don't worry about the words of it, and don't, when I say validity, don't let it get attached to and associated with things you've thought about in the past or dreamed about or read about some community or some great saint somewhere that gave everything away. Forget all that. I'm talking about right now there is a certain validity and there's a certain real attraction to being stripped down to the bare minimum. That doesn't mean that you would have to do without, but how about if you only did with that which you liked? So you like books, and that you don't find them offensive. You don't find them to be a burden. You don't look at it, some people have of collecting books throughout the years, and then find out, or their opinion is at some point along the way, is I have wasted not only my time, but my money buying all these books, because what I wanted they didn't give me. So if you got that kind of opinion, I would say that your dance with books is no longer of a very sweet nature. But let's say it is. But then you say you like music, and you protect this good old tube Macintosh tuner that you've had for 20 years, and these good old speakers. If you like that, like it. But look around all the rest of this stuff. Furniture, clothes, knickknacks, power tools, books. Just all possibilities, not the things themselves, but look at them and then look at you and your relationship to them. I said I wasn't going to back up and talk about how you got into it. How you got into it was trying to find your place in line at the slaughterhouse. It's always that. Trying to find a better position to what do these other poor blind pigs around me, what do they think about me, the way I'm dressed? And do I have the New Yorker magazine rolled up and stuck in my pocket with the top up so they can be sure and see what I'm reading? You know, is that how I end up with all this stuff? And the answer is, well, you know what the answer is. By and large, that's how you end up with the stuff. But now, you got a chance that you can look around and see, do I find it useful, or to me is it beautiful? If it's not, you should ask yourself, what am I doing with it? Because part of the rent you're paying, part of the house payments, is for that stuff. You're giving it a home. And initially, if you could look back and see, the reason you're not giving it as home is you was hoping somebody that was at least your social better would look at it and then look at you and say, is that yours? Did you actually buy that? My what good taste you have, my opinion of you have changed. Nobody ever looks at it like, what kind of people do I want to impress? I can impress them because I got a certain tag on my jeans. Well, let's don't go into that. That's city talk. Well, what we're going to do is, so I can let Kyroots start participating again, you people here in Atlanta is primarily what I'm doing this for tonight. I started back at some of the Kyroots more or less when I started using the revolutionary terminology, and I pulled out 3 sets tonight, and I've got 3 sets of 2 people, I think sometimes referred to as a duo. They're going to read these right through. Now you people here and you people getting this on tapes at other times and other places, Kyroot had some history at one time. That he was some guy that seems to know a lot and been floating around here and seems to transcend all limits of time and space. And he sends out these messages I used to get, and I'd bring them in. And as you're going to see what they are, most of them are basically a one-line message. Sometimes they're a little story and a little more complex. And I suspect, based upon past experience, that many of these you're going to find are inclined to tickle one. But now let me remind you, there's some reason that I allow him to speak. And I remind you again, just because something is funny doesn't mean it's a joke. Because the purpose of the Kyroots was not to set him up on the club circuit as a new comedian. The purpose is as serious as what I do, but it is in a slightly different form. And by and large, I have come to have some faith in him, and I'll just usually bring him in. I don't second guess him. I usually don't comment on them except indirectly. And because some of these I have started using later on, made some reference to, and that's why some of you newer people need some background of it, and to get you at least broken in tonight so I can start letting him jump back in here. Because I have reason to believe that Kyroot now, since you new people started, is probably 2 or 3 years behind. I don't know whether they'll ever catch up. So that's what the rest of this first side of the tape's going to be. Are you ready to go? So remember, just because it's funny, it doesn't mean it's a joke.